Batman, issue 135, Chip Zdarsky writing with Mike Hawthorne and Mikkel Janin on art, although I feel like there's probably more artists in this than that.
There has to be a lot more.
Either that or Janin's been very versatile.
Yes.
So yeah, I completely forgot this was technically issue 900, right? This is the milestone issue. So the length wasn't a big deal, but it was kind of that thing where like I've not really been enjoying this arc, and I especially hated that last issue. So starting this, and I'm like, okay, Batman's had his hand cut off, and he's chasing after this red mask dude, right? Or Crimson Head, or whatever he's called.
Red mask, and then his punchline is Crimson, which kept confusing the hell out of me. It's because then I thought he was referring to himself in the third person at one point, but no, he was talking to his henchwoman. So. Yeah.
So so it kind of weirdly breaks down. There's kind of about a normal sized issue worth wrapping up the story to a point where it's the conflict is Batman bandaging up his arm, going after Red Mask, Alfred making the choice to open the tower to let the people in who are fighting for their lives because he's a hero, blah blah blah, right? The things you'd expect. But then the rest of the 50-page give or take book, it sends us spiraling into the multiverse, because what happens here is that Red Mask effectively wants to experience the inception of the Joker, right? He's using the multiversal energy of the city and from Batman to experience the moment where the Joker on the main Earth became the Joker. And we get some sort of like Killing Joke looking sort of, the raindrops and the puddle and the Joker's looking down. But it does this thing. Now, I'm not going to say I hate this particular little idea, right? There's some nuggets of ideas in here that I don't hate. And this being that when he goes into the brain of the Joker, the real Joker is such a crazy asshole that he can tell someone's there. And that's a little funny to me. Like,
the part of it I don't like, though, is that if this is the inception of the Joker, then he's not the Joker yet that thinks like that. You know what I mean? Like... he's there at the birth of the Joker. So to me, his brain hasn't been that, incepted yet. So that's the only flaw I have in that.
What do you mean? Like you mean the real Joker?
Yeah, the real Joker, right? So he goes in and he sees him become the Joker, right? He falls into the Red Hood, and he falls into the Ace chemical vat, and he comes out and he goes to look at his face. And to me, I don't think like in that moment, he's just seeing himself for the first time. I don't think the Joker's brain is that chaotic as of yet, right? Because I feel like
that's an opinion, though. Really, I mean, clearly here Zdarsky's saying he is. The second he looks down, he's already the Joker, right? That's what he's saying.
And just for me, that's the one flaw that I have there, and I kind of don't like the idea that the red mask is the the crux of that. That's what broke the Joker initially.
I don't really like that. I don't really like that he has anything to do with the Joker being the Joker. I think that's him reading into his own self-value a bit too much.
Maybe.
The part I like about it is this idea that Red Mask wants this. He's aspiring to be the Joker because he wants to be that version of himself. But but once he actually gets into the real Joker's head, it's like he can't even begin to think like the real Joker. No. The real Joker was more than he's bitten off more than he can chew, and he can't deal with that. That
card, bitches.
That part of it is, it feels like it's playing to the Joker's strengths. But everything else here, like I don't really like that much. But the big thing is that Red Mask is determined to still do it, right? So after Batman stabs him with his bat ears by headbutting him. Which I don't think I've ever seen in the comic before, so I guess points for originality.
That's cool, but it's also, you have to remember they're not actual bat ears, right? They're things that were fixed on a helmet. So, good for Bruce for thinking on his feet.
But basically, Red Mask goes spiraling into the multiverse to try and basically find other Jokers to try and experience the thing. And Batman says his goodbye. He has a touching moment with Alfred. Which is fine on its own, but honestly, we've seen this done better, multiple times since Alfred died.
The one that Mark Waid just did with the fake Alfred, that was brought back by the Devil Nazar, that hit the heart. This was fine, but that
was better. Obviously, everything in Nightwing talking about Alfred's death's been way better. So it's just fine. It's almost they're pulling on this just a little too much now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's like the pearls at this point. I don't want to see the pearls. I don't want Bruce to talk to Alfred and tell him how much he means to him.
I need to see some other version of Alfred. Yeah. So obviously Batman jumps into the multiverse after him. He's got like one beacon to like sort of chasing after him, and so it got to this page where it's like that's clearly Jack Nicholson's Joker he's looking at on the news where he lands in the city, and then the next page is Michael Keaton Batman, and I'm like, wait, what are we doing here? Are we and there was a part of me where I forgot this was like a special anniversary issue, right? Because for a second I thought, are we doing a whole arc in 89 Batman? Because I'm going to lose my shit. Now, luckily, that's not what the case.
Yeah,
it's an anniversary issue, so they do this ultra nostalgia thing where he jumps through the 60s TV show universe, he jumps into the animated series universe, then Batman Beyond, which is actually technically the same universe, but this treats it like it's two different universes for whatever reason. Yeah. And then he jumps into like Dark Knight Returns, where he gets like a fancy robot hand from that Bruce.
After that, Bruce kicks the ever-loving piss out of him because he thinks he's one of the mutants. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, we go into like a vampire thing. We go into, interestingly, the Arkham video game series. Which directly references the fact that Bruce seemingly died in Arkham Knight, but it turned out he just, faked his death or whatever, because he mentions...
He got better, though.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah. So, but that was kind of interesting. It kind of like did something to that story to change it after the fact. He goes to Kingdom Come universe, and there's not really much to say here because ultimately it's just
reality hopping.
It's reality hopping. It's nostalgia. Here's an artist's interpretation of each of these versions of your Batman, a few Jokers here or there, that kind of thing. And it tries to mimic the art, especially for the comics. Like it does, like Dark Knight Returns section tries to look kind of, like that book. So, anyway.
I did like the stuff from Batman Beyond because I have a special affection for Batman Beyond, and just that the older Bruce kind of figuring out what's going on and who he is. I thought that was a fun little moment because that's really where it stops and takes its breath. Because everything else, it's explaining that even if the Joker had died, he's been reborn because of the presence of Red Mask, because of his essence, and so then we get that Return of the Joker popping back up in that moment.
Yeah, because that's and the Batman 89 thing, that's the thing that's on the news, is that the Joker's somehow back, even though Jack Nicholson's Joker obviously did die at the end of Batman. So basically, it's kind of hinting at this idea that it's just confirming to Batman that there's no reason to ever kill the Joker because he'll somehow always come back anyway, or at the very least, nothing will change. It'll still be Gotham, it'll still be full of villains, he'll still be needed as Batman. But I kind of don't like that as a message because I'm like, it means more if Batman's sticking to his guns, for lack of a better term.
That choice because he's better than the Joker, and killing the Joker makes him no better.
Yeah, him just getting confirmation that there's no point in doing it just kind of devalues that a little bit.
There's a nihilism that works. I feel like that was Zdarsky's, the reverse of his intent. It's kind of like, well, it doesn't matter if you kill the Joker's going to come back. And it's like, well, that's not why Bruce doesn't kill the Joker. Yeah. I mean, I will say there is a nice little chuckle at the end where he's in like the end of time and space with Red Mask, and there's a shark Joker, and he checks the utility belt that the 66 Batman gave him, and there's a can of shark repellent, and he smirks and says, "Finally, a Batman that's more prepared than I am." Yeah. And that was like, obviously, he's not the original Batman. The comics were around from the 1940s, but I do think that to a lot of people growing up, the 60s Batman for a certain age group is the original Batman. It's the first one they remember. So the idea that it's kind of like paying homage and saying, no, as silly as that was, they've kind of utilized it here in a fun way. Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but...
Because how silly is Bat shark repellent, as you're watching the 60s show through modern eyes, but here Zdarsky made it work because of these gigantic Joker sharks, which I thought were rad, right?
Yeah.
He calls them like mutated Joker fish, like the next step through that. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, and there it came because the Adam West Batman gave him his utility belt because he saw that he was missing one. So, but yeah, The nostalgia stuff, though, once we started getting through the time jump, and you were talking about in the last couple of weeks, you're being done with A, nostalgia, and B, reality hopping.
Oh yeah.
That we got the combination of the both, and I was like, oh, well, Pete's going to love this.
This issue is just a precursor to that Flash movie. It's just let's jump around and do whatever we want because we can with multiverse rules. And you know, I said on Twitter this week that if I don't see another superhero do a multiverse thing for 10 years, I'll be a happy man. And I don't think I'm going to get it, but I'd like to get it. So I mean, ultimately, there's a couple of little nuggets here or there that are fun little ideas on their own, but it does just kind of feel like a cheap nostalgia ploy to do all this like hopping between all these famous versions of Batman. I do like the idea of in a Milestone issue try to say something fundamental about Batman and Joker's relationship, but I kind of feel like the point this makes, like I said, just cheapens the fact that Batman refuses to kill him. You know, by giving him this answer. I don't know. I don't really like that. So, and plus, you know, obviously, I've not liked this art. I've not liked giving us this is the Joker on another Earth with his real name or whatever else. I don't like that. And looking back as well now at this point, I feel like this entire like alternate Earth arc we've had feels like it might have just existed so it could end with this special issue.
Which, if that's the case, then I applaud Zdarsky for trying something to make it work. You know, I'll always give credit if you're trying something wacky because of editorial, right? As long as this wasn't just his idea and him, you know, having it line up with 900 was happenstance. But knowing how comics work, it's probably the first, like you said, you know.
I think he wanted a reason to go through all the, like, be able to jump through the multiverse, so that's why Arc 2 of his run was a multiverse story. Right. So that we could end it this way. And obviously at the end, Tim shows up, because Batman has one, like, thing to send him home, but he uses it on Red Mask instead to send him home, and Tim comes and finds him, and that because that was set up in the backups. And
because of Robin. Yeah, Robin needed to find his Batman. But yeah. Also, we skipped over the fact that Selina's the reason that he goes in through the multiverse, right? Is she basically kicks him through the portal, knowing that, you know, that's because he's like, oh, you're not my Selina, and then she kicks him. So, you know, a little bit of weirdness there. But yeah, no, it's fine.
He does a thing though where he sort of confesses like how he feels about Selina in a way that he might not to the regular Selina, because this is not his, so he feels free to just say it out loud. Yeah. By saying, like he's you know, it's like he can never commit and have a family because he's Batman. The city needs him, and he'll never let that go, kind of thing. Which is stuff we know, but he's you know he's him outright saying it to us slightly new. Yeah. If anything, she usually accuses him of this rather than him admitting it. But
him admitting it, right?
Yeah. Honestly, like I didn't hate it as much as last issue, but like, has Batman just got like a weird futuristic robot hand now for the time being?
Right? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I've not liked this arc. Like this was a weird arc. I don't, you know.
What was with the multiversal energies that he found on the other Bruce Wayne then? Was that Red Mask killed him with multiverse energy?
Yeah, Red Mask was trying to harness his like multiverse energy to like, and then at some point he realized he needed way more, which is why he was infecting the whole city by the end to make his thing work.
But why start with Bruce? That was my question.
Oh, because he knows he's Batman in the other universe.
Oh, that's right. Because he looked through. Okay. All right.
Yeah, but honestly, the whole arc just feels like a tangent that
it feels like a fever dream. Like I thought I'd be getting some like Batman the Knight Zdarsky, and instead we're getting like these wacky stories about a Terminator and a multiverse.
Well, I like the Terminator stuff up to a point, and which by the way, Failsafe's still controlling Gotham. We still have to deal with that.
Maybe that's how he gets his robot hand back. Failsafe clones him a new one or something.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, the last page is all the different Batmen, but in Zur-Arar style of Batman.
Yeah. So, which I wonder if that's going to come back into play as well, because of that was the first backup going through the failsafe stuff, was the whole creation of the Zur-Arar failsafe, and then failsafe was meant to prevent that. So maybe the whole idea of this Joker going through time like this is also given a Zur&R through time. Yeah, or time and space, I should say.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe the final page is supposed to be kind of a meta thing where, like, you know, Batman created this other personality in his head to deal with something that he couldn't. So the idea that we have all these different Batman personalities across all these different mediums because we keep needing more Batman, so we keep having new versions. Maybe that's the meta thing he's going for at the end. So yeah, and I suppose a nice touch is that he gets like a fresh costume from the Dark Knight Returns Batman. So it looks kind of Dark Knight Returnsy, but it's got like a blue cape and logo.
Right.
So he's got kind of a neat costume for the last part of the issue. So it all just feels a bit hollow and kind of like. So sometimes you get to those anniversary issues and they'll try and do like a greatest hits kind of story. It just kind of felt like that to me, and it kind of made this whole arc to me feel even more just kind of redundant.
Yeah, it's like when we got to Action 1000 and we got a couple main stories, but they're all kind of like homages to Superman. I much like that in these big milestones like that, where we get a couple of smaller stories that kind of just lean into why Batman's so great for this one. You know,
the thing is though is I think I actually would have preferred this method of like having an arc that builds up to a climax that is in the issue that does something important with the character. I just don't think anything that he did here was actually that important or impressive. So it makes the whole arc in hindsight feel just kind of like, oh, this is what it was building up to. This is what, and it kind of feels like this is why it existed, was so they could do this issue. As issue 900. So I don't know. Yeah, it's been a troublesome arc. I hope the next one is better. I hope if we're back to dealing with failsafe, maybe we get some more Terminator fun again and see how that goes. But, you know, one of the other things that I'm sick of in Batman books is, right now, and don't need to see for a while, is a villain taking over the city. Like, because that seems to have happened a lot in the last, like, 5 or so years. So, I don't know. Like, I wish Zdarsky was doing more intimate stories with Batman, I guess. Something a bit more grounded, less, you know, spectacular and big set piece moments where he's falling from orbit, like shit like that. Like, just, you know, I'm not even necessarily saying just do a detective story. You can have like a scary villain, but I don't know. And I think part of the problem is that I can compare it to his Daredevil, and his Daredevil's way better because his Daredevil is this grounded crime fighting character with morality issues.
Right, and that's kind of like the Daredevil greatest hits, though. At a certain point, you know, is him finding, you know, common ground with somebody, and then endangering that person because of, you know, machinations of the villains and whatnot. So, granted, I'm only through 2 trades, so it might get better than that. But that's what I've experienced so far with the Zdarsky Daredevil, and it's very good. I'm enjoying all of that, but yeah. I don't know. I'm just glad we have Detective because I'm really enjoying that right now. That's much more my vibe in the form of Batman. I just think it's weird to have Batman do reality multiversal stuff in his main book, you know.
There's a time and a place for it. It felt like such a pivot. It was kind of such a random direction to go in at the end of that last arc, and it's like, okay, you're going to have to prove to me that this is worth doing. And then it just got worse. And you know, and this ending didn't really justify any of it. So not feeling super into it. Still not really feeling Hawthorne's art. Obviously, once it gets to the nostalgia stuff and it's jumping between the styles, and some of that will be Yannin, maybe all of it's Yannin, and he's just doing a great job of mimicking different art styles. But once it gets to that, like, I enjoyed that art more because it was a different styles. It was better. It was more varied. I think Yannin's a better artist in general than Hawthorne is. You know, I've really enjoyed Yannin's art since the start of Rebirth. So, all right, Matt, what are you rating Batman 135?
I'm gonna give this a solid 7.
6 for me. It's kind of 6.
Yeah.